Alright, hello second year and welcome back to your second lesson on A Poison Tree by William Blake. So here's your starter task. As always, you're going to copy the following words out 3 times and then you're going to make a sentence and put that either in your Ruey and Literacy Jotter or on a channel on your class team depending on what your teacher has asked you to do. So the words for this lesson are involve, majority, and specifically. So pause the video and have a go at that now. Okay, so we're moving on with our poetry and focusing on A Poison Tree by William Blake. So for this lesson, here are our aims. So we're going to be talking about what textual analysis is today. We're going to be fully analysing the poem that we've been working on and then working towards completing a textual analysis assessment on this poem. So here's your little grid and you can see there what we're doing today and then what we'll be doing for the remainder of the course. So again, we're just working towards writing a critical essay on the poem. Okay, so textual analysis, what is it? Well, it's usually questions on a text and it's normally a fiction text for textual analysis. That's the big difference between textual analysis and Ruey. Textual analysis is usually a fiction text and Ruey is usually a non-fiction text. So remember, just the same as Ruey, you're answering questions to test your understanding, analysis and evaluation, and you're going to be focusing on analysis techniques. So you might be thinking, what sorts of questions am I going to be asked during a textual analysis assessment? Well, you're going to be asked understanding questions, as we know. So these questions test your knowledge of the main ideas of the poem and how well you've understood them. Usually you can answer these questions in bullet points to save yourself time. Normally we want you to answer them in your own words, which is something you'll have been practicing in class. And a good rule of thumb is that the number of marks for the question usually tells you how many bullet point answers you should have. So 3 marks, 3 bullet points, 4 marks, 4 bullet points, and so on. Audience and purpose questions are another kind of understanding question. So these ones are asking you about the audience of the poem. So that's the group of people that the poem is aimed at. So you should think about the subject of the poem, what's it about, and you should be thinking about the poet's message. So give an answer for these, but also remember it's really important to explain why you think that is the answer. So you need to always give a reason as well. Themes of the poem then, this is really, really important. So it's asking you to think about the big idea or ideas that run throughout the whole poem. So what is the writer's message? What do you think the writer of the poem wants us as readers to think about once we've read it? Okay, on to analysis questions then. So starting off with word choice, we'll be pretty familiar with word choice. Remember that the words in the poem are chosen usually deliberately by the poet, and it's really important that we think about the connotations of those words. So remember that connotations are the things that we associate with that word. So usually you should quote the word or a very short phrase, and then you should explain what you think the word or phrase suggests. So again, remembering to add in connotations. So connotations change based on the context of the thing that you've read. So you can have positive or negative connotations of a word. So for example, the word youth might mean something really positive and cheerful, like wanting to look youthful or remembering how happy you were in your youth. Or it might mean something a little bit more negative, like an intimidating teenager or a gang or something like that. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Okay, imagery, similes and metaphors then. So we talked about this briefly last lesson, but just remembering the difference between a simile and a metaphor. So simile is the one that compares something using like and as, and metaphor just says that one thing is another thing. So when you're analysing a simile or a metaphor in S2, you need to try and write down what the simile or the metaphor makes you think about, because in S3 you're going to be shown an even more specific way to answer these kinds of questions. Then we've got mood and atmosphere. So this is to do with the feelings that you get from the poem. So is it a happy poem, a sad poem, a serious? What do you think? Pause the video just now and have a quick discussion about your poem. Does the mood change at all in the poem? Is it the same the whole way, or does it change? And if it changes, talk about where you think the mood of the poem might change. So pause the video and try that now. Okay, evaluation questions. So you might be asked how effectively the writer does something. So you might be asked to give your own personal response, and you'll need to remember to give a reason for your answer. So just like the other questions for a textual analysis, you don't need to write in full sentences. Bullet points are just fine. Alright, now that you've had a go at that, you're going to be working on a textual analysis assessment. So a Teams assignment has been set up for you called Textual Analysis Assessment, A Poison Tree. You should read the poem and have a go at answering the questions, bearing in mind what we've just talked about. So your teacher's going to give you a wee bit more specific instructions about that, but pause the video and have a go at that just now. If you get finished with the assessment, please remember that other pupils in the class might not be done yet and they need quiet to concentrate. So if you're finished, what you should be doing is a little bit of personal reading, either using a book that you've brought from home or something from Brown's books, or perhaps from the library if that's all right with your teacher.